Hello, hello, are we live? Guys, how we doing? Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Oh, that's a weird choice of music to go next. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. Because today, on Debate Direct, we're actually doing a debate. Although, even then, the structure of my debates isn't really like a debate. Like, I've seen proper debates, I've done proper debates, school teams, university, societies, that kind of thing. You know, on this channel, we never do the, you know, strictly structured and regimented kind of A versus B. We don't usually do that kind of British parliamentary or, you know, even just, you know, typical, like, you know, news broadcast kind of one idea versus the other, black versus white, left versus right, you know. It's always more of a discussion direct, if anything. What does the direct even mean? I'm going to be honest, I'm a little unsure, but let's not worry about any of that. But today we're doing an actual debate. Again, my format, my structure, if you don't know, it's always more of an open structured thing. I am here, and I'm going to be presenting all the information and kind of the premise of this, and obviously inserting my own opinions when the time is right. But the community members, the Hydration Nation, individuals from the Discord server, linked in the description and on the banner, they're all going to be joining me. Now, this is an open thing, but I want to try something different. Normally, I don't shout out anybody for this, but it seems a bit unfair if they're contributing to the conversation. And, you know, organizing and structuring this has been a bit hectic because of, well, let's just say that my entire schedule this week has been kind of hectic, and all will be explained in due time. But all you need to think about right now is that, you know, whoever's free can kind of hop on, hop off. Anyone, as long as they, you know, follow the rules and all that, are welcome. Anyone is welcome to come. I gotta skip this track. This track's distracting. I don't know why that's on the playlist. But anyone is welcome to come on and kind of, you know, voice their opinion and add to the discourse in whatever way they see fit. But of course, if you don't have voice chat, if you don't have Discord, whatever, you're always welcome to use live chat as well. I will be reading and responding to your comments as we go, like I do on all streams. This is a weird intro. This is a weird intro. I had nothing planned, and I just got here, and I'm just realizing, wait, I'm doing a live stream, and I almost forgot how to do it for a minute. Listen, guys, okay? Here's today's QOTD. What should we do about the graffiti problem? Best answer, most creative, most persuasive will win a shout-out to the YouTube channel. Link in the description with today's charity shout-out. That's Comic Relief. And these guys, I'm just going to talk about this now, because this is going to be a relatively short stream without a break, so I'm probably going to forget. These guys are a UK-based charity that basically hold events and stuff to, you know, bring comedy and use comedy to bring people out of poverty and kind of, you know, tackle injustices with these, like, comedy shows. It's hard to explain, but definitely check it out. They're the people who do Red Nose Day. If you know what that is, if you're British, you know what that is. Great charity. Again, all the links are in the description to my other channels, and of course the Discord server where you can get into voice chat and be on the stream, in the stream. That's the important thing. That's what I'm pointing out now. I'm going to be adding the collaborators as we go based on their contributions. I've never done this before. Hopefully it'll work out. But if you want to meet everybody, they're on the Hydration Nation. And I'm sorry to keep you waiting. You and whoever else will join, has joined, whatever. But I just want to start off with an introduction to this topic. Again, everyone coming on probably already has an idea of this, and I'll talk about this more with them when we get there, you know, individual to individual. But let me ask you all, what is graffiti? What does this term mean? What is graffiti about? What I like to do to make sure everyone's on the same page, and so there's, like, you know, an understanding, because I don't want to argue over semantics if, you know, like, we just interpreted the facts differently. Like, that's not fun. No. I want to argue over semantics, at least in the context of kind of, you know, what does this mean? How does this affect the world? You know, and how does it change in context? Because, like, if we can't even agree on a definition, there's no point debating. There's no point. And we're not arguing the definition of graffiti. It's not in the question. So, I'm just going to run you over a pretty basic thing, because in the past, I often bring in loads of, like, articles and stuff, and trying a variety of sources, like 5 articles each. We're keeping it real simple this time, alright? I have the Britannica page for graffiti, and 3 Wikipedia pages for art, vandalism, and graffiti. And graffiti, which I think, excuse me, oh, man, I have, hay fever is, it's dusty in here, graffiti, according to this, is a form of visual communication, usually illegal, involving the unauthorized marking of a public space by an individual or group. That's like as basic as it gets. You'll have seen this. It's like when people like draw and like spray print stuff onto like public property, like walls, you know, underpasses, bridges, you know, houses, streets, this kind of thing. It's derived from the Italian word graffio, which means scratch, and conceptually it's to do with kind of like writing, and you know, like, you know, placing, you know, shapes and colors, I guess, onto a surface. It's that simple. Which is interesting, because again, if we look at the Wikipedia page, you know, it's considered an art, right? That's what art is. It's putting stuff on a... Well, not even that. Art we'll get to, but it's like, you know... Let me do this in the right order. Art, right? Art is in reference to a diverse range of human activity that involves creative or imaginative talent and technical proficiency. You know, it says here. Art is a very broad term. Art is incredibly hard to define, which is why I think this debate is going to be quite interesting. And I don't want to go all kind of like, you know, pretentious, you know, middle-class bullshit, you know, for want of a better word, and just be kind of like, art can be whatever you want it to be. Art is subjective. Art can be anything. No. Art is a creation. It is something, it is some form of media. Even media, hardly describes it. It's a thing that a person can create using creativity. It's such a vague definition, but it's really the best I can say. Art references a diverse range of activities, I suppose. Activities and products that use creativity and talents and technical proficiency to create something. Obviously, there's drawings, there's paintings, there's sculpting, there's, you know, all kinds. Installations, you know. Something that is created, I think, with the intent to express something. I think it's like that's as accurate as it gets, because it's a very, very broad thing, right? Art can be in all kinds of mediums. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a physical object, although usually it is, but it can be an intangible, non-physical object, or even not even an object. But again, something that is created, you know, using your imagination, talent, technical proficiency. All right, just keep that in the back of your mind. All right. So going back to graffiti. Graffiti could be argued to be an art form. Again, it's, you know, someone marking these public spaces. Not necessarily by street gangs or with a symbol, but literally words, images, anything. And here's the Wikipedia page. But the thing about graffiti is that it's written, painted, or drawn onto a wall of other surface. It's specifically kind of like two-dimensional. Usually, it's, you know, like putting stuff on a surface in public view without permission. You can see images here. I think the best thing to do, honestly, if you don't understand what graffiti is just to find images. Because when I was making the thumbnail, this is basically what I did, and you can see, like, this is what graffiti is. There's so much. You can see it's like, you know, drawings of people. Writing, believe it or not, those are words. It's just very hard to write. I don't know why, but graffiti artists have a certain style. Like, I can't read what this is. I think that's an E and a K. Maybe that's just heck. But yeah, you got words and, you know, drawings. It is essentially big old drawings in public places, which comes on to vandalism. Some argue that graffiti is in fact vandalism. Vandalism is an action involving deliberate destruction or damage to public or private property. So a property, such as a building, a wall, you know, be it a public street or a private house, and destruction or damage to that is done with intent. And this includes graffiti, which is categorized as a defacement, because it's done without permission of the owner. It's done, you know, it's a crime, essentially. It's done without consent. And, you know, you can read about the whole etymology of it here. Again, all of these pages are easy to find. If you go Britannica graffiti, it's, you know, within, like, art category, and then art, vandalism, and graffiti on Wikipedia. I don't need to link these. But yeah, vandalism obviously comes in numerous forms, but graffiti is argued to be a defacement. Again, it involves damaging the appearance or surface of something. In this case, you know, obviously we're talking about, like, walls, you know, buildings. It's big outdoors, but, you know, vandalism is like a whole other concept that can apply to all kinds of different things. But yes, despite being illegal though, Graffiti, which is known to be a form of vandalism, is also often known to be an integral part of modern popular culture and art form. So, here's the thing, right? Is graffiti art or is it vandalism? Are they even mutually exclusive? I want to start off just with the kind of conceptual discussion before we move on to the QOTD, which is like the real meat of today's debate. And that's pretty much it. It's a fairly simple introduction. So, there's no one else waiting in voice chat, so I'm going to turn over to live chat. Guys, if you've got nothing to say, I will keep rambling. I can do that. This doesn't need to be a long stream. But what do we think? What do we think? Baka Jr., welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining. So, by that meaning, words are art in a sense. Pictures are meaning those words. Again, yeah. You know, literature, writing is an art form. Poetry is a right form. Prose is an art form. Did I say right form? Art form, you know. Again, guys, on the Hydration Nation, this is just supposed to be called art, but people got so confused about it, I had to call it content and art, because unfortunately, a lot of people view this kind of thing as content instead of art. But like, art can be drawings, sprite art, digital, whatever. It doesn't have to be traditional. You know, edits like YouTube thumbnails. My YouTube thumbnails are an art form. Hell, live streaming could be argued to be an art form. You know, creative writing is an art form. You know, modeling, rendering is an art form. It's not just drawings. Again, there was writing done for this. That's absolutely an art form. You know, art is anything that is created using talent and technical proficiency. With the intent to express creativity. I think that's the best way to sum it up. Hell, technically, all of this is art as well, but because people of how, you know, YouTube videos are, I want to keep links and attachments as kind of separate things. Trust me, it works better. But this, you could argue all this is art. Some of it definitely isn't, but I'm going to write that down. I think that's the best description of art that I can find is, you know, what does I say? Things created with intent to express creativity using talent and technical proficiency. This is absolutely taken from the Wikipedia definition, but so many people contributed to that. It's definitely a good kind of like, you know, consensus, I think. Not things, it should be like, you know, media, objects, and other creations that are created with an intent. I don't know. Whatever I said was slightly better than this. I'm gonna have to go back. Let me. I want to go back and hear what I said, because I actually said it like perfectly. Like, we are defining art here. That is actually very difficult to do. I'm not trying to be pretentious about this, but it's honestly difficult. You know, modeling, what did I say? Writing done for this. Word for word. Absolutely an art form. You know. What did I say? Art is anything that is created using talent and technical proficiency. With the intent to express creativity. I think that's the best way. Anything that is created. That's a bit stronger. Anything that is created with intent to express creativity, talent, technical proficiency. Using talent and technical proficiency with intent to express creativity. You know. Which means like a building that was constructed isn't necessarily art, although you could definitely argue architecture and, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, Mattception, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, graffiti isn't necessarily done without consent. Well, there's another thing, isn't it? Like, graffiti isn't always a crime. Graffiti isn't always, you know, like, you know, defacing public property. But it's like generally, I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't generalize it. In that regard, is nature art? I would say no. Nothing in nature is art because it wasn't created with intent. That intent to express creativity wasn't there. It was just science, just acting. Unless there's a god who has kind of written the laws of the universe. But I wouldn't believe that without proof. But yeah. Anyways. So, again, just like, it's very important with these kind of debates to really iron out the meaning of all the key words in the question before we begin. It's like a school assignment, guys. But yeah, art is the difficult one. I'm actually going to write down definitions so that when people join voice chat, I can just kind of explain to them as we go. But like, I think I'm just going to explain, you know, just as a shorthand. Like, I would say, yeah, vandalism is kind of, you know, defacement of public or private property with not necessarily malicious intent, just without permission. Again, we can look up the definition of vandalism on other websites to be absolutely sure. Again, yeah, a deliberate destruction or damage to public or private property. And there's like all these different dictionaries, which I did actually look at, I just didn't think they were very different. Again, yeah, intentionally damaging property belonging to other people, willful malicious destruction, defacement of public or private property. So, I'm gonna say, yeah, willful... Is it with 2 L's there? Willful defacement of public or private property. Damage or defacement of public or private property. And then, of course, that leads us on to graffiti, which I'm going to put at the bottom here. And, you know, graffiti would seem to toe a line between the two. But maybe there's a bit more to it than that, you know? I don't think it's that simple. Graffiti is kind of art vandalism. Vandalism art. It's kind of the cross of both definitions. It's art written, painted, or drawn. Again, I think we'll go back to Britannica for this one. It's pretty clear. But yeah. Again, this is interesting. It's interesting. Like, this gives you a good overview of the cultural side of it, which we're going to get into next. But yeah. Excuse me. But yeah, graffiti. I'm going to say art created on surfaces in public. Is it public places? Yeah, public places. Public places without permission. I think that's probably the best definition, although we could definitely get more into it as we go. So I think we've really ironed out the definitions now. So if there's no one going to be joining me in voice chat, let's talk more about graffiti itself. Oh, never mind, we have a taker. Hold on, let me unmute. Hello. So Baka, I see all your messages in chat, but you are now welcome to join the stage if you would like. Unless you can't use your mic. I distinctly remember, is your mic like damaged or something? If you just want to listen, that's fine. But either way, we're going for 20 minutes now. So what? I guess there's no one's here. Again, this is poorly timed for some people, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna keep going. So here's the thing, right? So, is graffiti illegal? Oh, do you know what might be fun? I just had an idea. Do you know what might be a fun little thing to test? Guys, what if I ask ChatGPT? What if I ask ChatGPT? Let me just get this. It'll only take a second. What if I ask ChatGPT about it? I'm going to compare this with search engines. I'm going to say, first of all, what is graffiti? What is graffiti? Visual art and expression that involves creating images, words, or designs on surfaces in public spaces, often using various types of spray paint marks or other materials. Associated with the urban environment, street culture. Long history as a means of political, social commentary, personal expression, and cultural representation. It's controversial because it involves unauthorized marking of public or private property. So private property as well. Kind of legal issues and debates are the balance between artistic expression and property rights. Yeah. And this is what I wanted to get onto. There are even designated areas in some cities known as graffiti walls or street art zones. Tell me more about graffiti walls and street art zones, because this is the thing. This is the thing, right? First of all, I just want to edit the definition because I think we actually had a pretty good point made here. In public or private properties places. But, there are places in the world where graffiti is not a crime, is the thing. In my country, I'm pretty sure it's just a crime in general. It's a pretty low-level crime. If they catch you for it, you're probably going to be doing, like, community service, like, wiping graffiti down. But, in other places in the world, it's completely allowed in specific areas, I guess. And this is actually listing some of the benefits, which is interesting. I'm going to just ask Google then. So, is graffiti illegal? Because this is research more than anything. I actually don't know exactly where it is legal. Is a blight or a thing of beauty? Oh, it's the sun. I'm not reading the sun. Alright. Don't be silly now. I don't want to read the sun. Is graffiti illegal? Because one of these will say. Again, I believe this is the UK. Doesn't say. That sounds like a UK law. The Anti-Social Behaviour Act of 2003. Yeah. It's in the UK, it's absolutely illegal. Selling spray paint to under 16s is also illegal. Interesting. And there's fines, there's prison time. It's pretty serious, actually. Yeah, I don't know. All countries. I'm curious about which countries it's allowed in, basically. Alright, stick to chat since it's not loading for you. So, if graffiti is a crime, yeah, isn't copying art a crime? Well, that's different again. Forget copyright infringement, okay, and all that kind of stuff. If you create your own original art piece, but it's, you know, done on, you know, public or private property without permission, I mean, that is a crime in this country. That's not up for debate here. But is it allowed in some countries? Because it absolutely is. Jumping the gun. This is what I want to end the stream on. But yeah. Can I see more answers? Ooh, here we go. So someone asked, do you consider graffiti to be an art? Why or why not? This is on Quora here. Someone said, you know, I'm not even talking about famous stuff like Banksy. When I lived in Connecticut for law school, there was a graffiti mural on the wall of the building across the McDonald's drive-thru depicting all the McDonald's mascot characters. Ronald Grimace, Hamburglar, as thugs, along with some typical graffiti-style hyper-stylized signatures. It was honestly well done and impressive. There's nothing inherent in the medium of spray paint and cinder block or brick that makes a well-crafted artwork any less artistic. However, being art doesn't mean it's not also vandalism, if it's unwanted by the owner of the property. Being art should give the artist any legal rights, including moral rights in the IP sense of the term, against the owner if the owner decides to alter or destroy the graffiti. I'd even go so far as to say the owner probably should automatically acquire an irrevocable, non-exclusive license to use the art for any lawful purpose, including commercial gain, and that the artist forfeits any claim of right to further alter the work without the owner's consent. If you produce your art on someone else's property, you assume all risks that the owner might do anything he could have done with his property before you made your artwork. His property doesn't partly become your property merely because you added your own creation to it. And that's an interesting legal debate, isn't it? It's like, okay, this person is arguing that, yeah, obviously, graffiti is both art and vandalism, but the fact that it is added to someone's property without permission means this owner has all the rights to their property that they did before, and that the artwork is now theirs. Not just that they have the right to get rid of it, but they actually have the right to do anything they want with it. You know, there shouldn't be any actual rights given to the artist. You know, this person's actually going really far and saying the owner of the property that the graffiti has been placed on should have irrevocable, non-exclusive, absolute rights to the art entirely, which is really interesting, even though someone else made the art. And that seems a bit unfair on the artist, right? Like, it's not their art, but it is their property. And that's kind of the dilemma. Do you know, you don't you know, gain any property by adding to someone else's property, right? It's very interesting. It's a very interesting debate there. What is this? What is this? Okay, there's some random crap on here. Core is a kind of a crap website, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of waiting to find the Reddit page, to be honest, because I think that's when this is going to get interesting. This is kind of like an article explaining, is it crime or culture, you know? And that's kind of what we're asking here. Is it, you know, crime or culture? Art or vandalism? But yeah, it's considered defacing of a, you know, public property. But it's absolutely... It's not just like for fun. It's not just like an important expression of art. People have used graffiti to, you know, empower and kind of bring awareness to social and political movements and kind of, you know, social commentary even. You know, you might have heard of Banksy, legendary artist who has become world famous despite being, you know, completely mysterious. His real identity is not known, I believe, because, you know, the dude doesn't want to get sent to prison. But yeah, it's really interesting. The, you know, works of art, I mean, the entire art industry is kind of insanely corrupt and kind of, you know, pumped full of, you know, money laundering. But, you know, the fact that graffiti art is no different and still sells for prices like that is really interesting. And we got some basic arguments here, so yeah, if there's on a voice chat, I'll just run through some of these. This is just... fuck off. I don't want to report any graffiti. There's no graffiti near me. So, what you can see here is these debates. Graffiti is vandalism. It makes an area look run down. Again, this is purely subjective. This is not a great argument. This is just kind of saying, well, I personally don't like the look of that. It looks untidy and not well kept. Makes areas look like war zones. I think that's an interesting take. I don't quite understand that one. But here we go. Argument 2, it's illegal, right? And it's illegal for a reason. No one has the right to deface public or private property. It's damaging, right? Because it does actually damage the surfaces. Like, cleaning that up, it does damage, like, chemically, it damages the surface, and after a while, like, the walls become more cracked and such in cases. It depends, because there's so many different, you know, types of spray paint and paint or whatever you're using. But, you know, the cleaning process is also time-consuming, and that's taxpayer money. That's taxpayer money being wasted on cleaning up walls because someone decided to write, you know, Kyle was here. And this is the next thing. There's the economic one. People have to clean this stuff up. It's expensive, it's ugly, it's unsightly, and the taxpayer has to pay. This is exactly what I was saying. I beat him to it. So this is what some people are saying. It's like, the reason it's a crime, and should remain a crime, you know, it comes down to this kind of thing, the economics. It's an absolute waste of our resources and taxpayer money to be cleaning this up when we've got so many other issues. People just, you know, need to be discouraged from drawing graffiti. But here we go. We've got other arguments saying it's acceptable, it's artistic, and can improve the look of an area. It can brighten up an otherwise boring wall. It can enhance an ugly piece of architecture, an eyesore. Basically the opposite of the first one. Again, this is purely subjective. There's good art and there's bad art, but, you know, it is subjective at the end of the day, what looks good or not. You know, people have been saying in this argument that it needs the right context and surroundings to earn its respect in its own right, not be seen as vandalism. There's a distinction between street art and graffiti or tagging. And again, I think this kind of comes down to, well, is it good art or not, you know? Because, yes, it's subjective, but I think, you know, if there's no talent and no proficiency in what's being drawn or written there, and it's just kind of like, you know, attention-seeking, you know, piece that doesn't have much actual, like, artistic or meaningful or like visual value, then I guess most people would argue that it's just ugly. It just doesn't look good. And maybe that's what, does it come down to it just looking good? Is graffiti unacceptable until it's like good art? Is that the barrier? Is it purely just because the art is bad? I think that's another interesting angle to consider. Like, would you guys ban graffiti if it all sucked, like, just artistically? Again, that's still kind of subjective. But the messaging is the important part, right? How about I search up political graffiti, because it has absolutely been used for political messaging and the like over the years. If we go over to images, got anything here? Here we go. Again, this isn't particularly artistic, but you could argue, you know, there's a message, right? I mean, this is crap, but, you know, here we go. This is good. This is an interesting one. It's like, if the government, you know, wipes this down, is that censorship? Is it censorship? Because technically what they're doing there is wiping down criticism of themselves. You know, if the government, you know, uses their taxpayer money and their, you know, nationalized workers to, you know, clean up this, or they contract a private, you know, company, whatever, either way. Like, is that censorship? Because what they're doing there is essentially saying, by removing this, you have to love us. Which is and also, the message in itself is really interesting. I'm going to do a whole stream on this, couldn't I? You can love your country without having to love your government. A separation between the nation and the state, which is just a whole different thing. Also, Jeremy Fisher, thanks for the heart. Appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. How you doing? Again, I'd argue modern art, since most of that sucks, is still considered art. Again, art is subjective, but I think there are limits, right? You know, because there has to be talent, there has to be a proficiency. And there's some crap lazy art out there, which goes for millions in some cases. But yeah, this is the thing, right? So Barker Jr., if you commission someone to draw you something on your building, it's no longer defacement. It's no longer a crime, which means it's no longer vandalism, and is therefore only art. Probably not even graffiti, if we take graffiti at the face value definition of it being done without permission. If it's done with permission, then I guess it's just art. It's just like contracting. So if it's done with permission, it's not graffiti, I guess. But yeah, a piece can be one, it can be both. Again, diamond cutters. The diamond doesn't become your property just for cutting off a bit of it. Exactly. You know, if you steal a piece of, you know, Mount Vesuvius, or, you know, if you take away a piece of the Berlin Wall, you don't own that, or do you? You know. But again, you know, you're not taking anything away, you're adding. Graffiti artists don't take away chips from the buildings, they're only adding, so forget about that, it's a separate thing. We're talking about them adding, defacing, arguably, public property here. Dude, that's a really clever point. What if art brings more customers or tourists? You know, there's the economic argument, right? But what if this is actually attracting more tourists? And it's actually attracting attention and therefore actually adding to the economic value of the area. When I went on holiday to the place, I went on holiday to a beach in England called Lyme Regis, wonderful place. They have a graffiti wall. I can actually find the photos if you guys want. They have a big wall of graffiti that has not been taken down for years. It's been there, unaltered, maybe slightly adjusted by artists, but they don't take it down. Because it is considered art. It's like not illegal in that area. Let me see if I can just find the thing. Hold on. Oops, sorry, wrong one. I meant to go to here. Let me just see. Because I have the images on here somewhere from when we were on holiday of the graffiti. Might take me a minute. Let me just keep the arguments on screen, because it is interesting. And also, just kind of look at these. Like, think about this. Like, is it important that we, you know, take down, you know, graffiti like this, even when it has an important message, such as this? I mean, you might disagree with it, but, you know, politics is kind of, you know, an essential part of our existence. Just trying to find the graffiti, because I do have photos somewhere. And when was the last time? It was last year, wasn't it? I gotta scroll right back. They might not be on here anymore. Oh, I've deleted them because I already moved them to another device. No, I don't think I did. I can't find the images. I think they might be even older because the first time I went there was quite a while back. Yeah, I don't have the photos, I'm afraid, but I've seen graffiti just kind of staying where it is. Like, there are places where people, it's kind of like a don't ask, don't tell thing. Like, you know, even the police or the local authorities are like, it's okay, this is a designated, like, art wall. It, you know, does, in my opinion, liven up the place. I think graffiti can really improve a place. Again, there's stuff like this, which is really important kind of messaging. There's stuff like this, which, quite frankly, is an ugly mix of different people's work, and it's just kind of like, you know, definitely worse than the place. But then there's some kinds of graffiti that really improve how a place might look. Something a bit more like the ones I picked for the thumbnail. I don't know how clear they are because they are blurred out, but something like that. I don't know. Again, that's just my subjective opinion, though. As is everything, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. And here we are, we've got the Reddit threads going. I wonder if there's anything interesting here. Loyalty to the country always. Loyalty to the government when it deserves it. Mark Twain. That's interesting. Where do I know that name from? Mark Twain. Was he like a philosopher or something? Does anyone actually love their government? That's a loaded question. I'd say something besides no comment, but they're listening. Wow. I love the place, but I hate the people in charge. Again, this is just getting to political discussion now. We don't need to go deep into this right now. But it's interesting, right? Like, should this be allowed? I don't think anyone's going to say no. But should the government have the right to take it down? Because it's graffiti. Nothing to do with the message, but because it's graffiti. Hard to argue no on that one. But you can't deny there's an undertone there of censorship. I mean, there's this as well. This is quite clever. That's actually really clever. I like this. Nobody, and it's just a blank face suit. Again, there's stuff like this, which is just kind of, you know, doesn't really say anything, but wow. Very interesting. But yeah, this is, again, really important, and it actually tells you the stories on this page about where these have come from. Anyway. Again, this is graffiti. It's pretty old looking. But yeah. So, I've lost my train of thought. I think I said everything. But there's some very interesting arguments. The economic one could go either way. The kind of, does it make a place look better or not? It could go either way. It's kind of subjective and depends on the art. And that's like a whole different thing. ChatGPT is saying that it involves the community. And by providing legal outlets for graffiti and street art, there is a potential to reduce illegal graffiti on private property, as artists have an alternative place to create. This is another thing. This is what my dad taught me about drugs and, like, you know, the thing about, you know, alcohol, because prohibition didn't work. The best way to solve a problem is never to ban something, because it will just encourage illegal acts. What you can do to reduce, you know, work and kind of, you know, loads, I guess, for prisons, courts, you know, the police, to reduce all their workloads and to, you know, just kind of like make things easier. If you give people a legal outlet, a regulated, moderated legal outlet, in this case for graffiti, a designated zone, if you will, then it's going to massively reduce the amount of illegal graffiti, right? Because graffiti artists don't really care about, unless it's maybe a very strong political message, there's pretty much no logical reason for them to go about, unless it's maybe a personal thing, which again is probably going to be in only a few cases. There's very little reason for them to go deface private property when they can go to a designated public space and just do what they've got to do there. Because again, if you designate a public space that a lot of people are going to see anyways, you know, people are going to be encouraged to put their messages there anyway, be it just a fun little personal expression or a political message, because that's where the most people are going to see it. And that's the whole point. Art is meant to be seen, it is meant to be consumed, analysed, you know, experienced. So, if, you know, you want to reduce illegal graffiti, maybe make it legal in specific areas. It's definitely worked for some countries. I don't know any examples, but from what I've been reading, it seems evident. And as you said, Baka, it actually does appeal to tourists and culture. It's very interesting. And it's definitely worth thinking about. I think I already know what my conclusion to this is now. I think that's basically my conclusion to this debate. The conclusion to every debate, because, like, I haven't done, like, a proper debate on drugs or alcohol or anything, but, like, what I've concluded, after listening to some very smart people, is that actually, we shouldn't need to ban everything outright. There are some things which probably shouldn't exist, but everything should be kind of, you know, licensed or paywalled by, like, you know, medical authorities, and kind of done in a way that is legal, but is, you know, regulated. It won't completely delete all crime, but it will stop, you know, crime lords from manifesting, you know, masses of wealth through, you know, other people's suffering. But, you know, there are some countries that don't get this, or they do it wrong, so they just outright ban everything and just create kind of wars over this, which are just worse for everyone involved. It's kind of unfortunate. And it's not as easy as I'm saying. In practice, it is not that easy. There is still a lot of work to do. But, you know, from my point of view, it just seems logical. Again, there's stuff like this as well. The iconic picture of Obama with the kind of, like, you know, pop art shading. I love that art style. I don't know where it came up with. There's another one here with all different colors. Yeah, this is another one. It says Art Sci. Graffiti Art Vandalism. That's the title of the stream. That's literally the title of the stream. You know, something as simple as pen drawing on a wall. Technically, that's vandalism. Could also be art. Definitely graffiti. But yeah. Damn, someone did this on the side of a train. How did they do that? Can't have been while it was moving. But yeah, some very interesting things here. Chat. You've said a few things since I checked in on you, so let me see what you got to say again. What's chat saying? See? Okay, your Wi-Fi died. But yeah, there was a revolt in 2019 where you're at that made large fists out of wood. Those fists are still standing right now. Tell me more. What's the context for this? Does this event have a name? I can't remember which country you're from. Is it Poland? Or am I getting mixed up? There was a revolt. What was the revolt about? Like, was this just against an authoritarian government? That sounds interesting. Like streaming services instead of pirating movies. Jeremy, that's a really good point. That's a really good parallel. It's like, this is why streaming services have been so profitable lately, because the companies who produce films and TV were smart enough to think, while COVID's going on, people can only watch stuff at home, and as time has gone on, now it's like a choice that people enjoy. There's a lot of demand for watching things at home on a computer, so provide these streaming services so people won't pirate stuff on these random third-party websites. Provide, again, the distribution issue, which we talked about when it came to, I don't know if we talked about this on a stream, but I recently got a game, which I might stream, called Ultimate Spider-Man. Very old game. It's classified as abandonware. I talked about this on the Discord. Abandonware is like software or hardware that is no longer in production, no longer sold in any actual legitimate legal venue. So pirating it is actually kind of allowed because it's not available anywhere else. You can get a free third-party download if, you know, it's not being distributed or produced anywhere anymore. And because this game's so ancient, this is like the only way to get it. And again, this is the thing with like Nintendo, right? You know, Gavin. I've forgotten his real name. Gavin. The Valve dude. Why have I forgotten his actual name? I can only remember the memes. He basically said, like, piracy is not a, you know, user issue. It's like a distribution issue or something like that. Basically, like, it's the fault of companies, you know, not providing any legal way to play the games that piracy often happens. I think there's obviously exceptions. But, you know, if you're legally selling... If you're not distributing your product anywhere, then piracy shouldn't really be a crime. There's probably a bit more complicated than that, but with like TV and movies and games, I have found that like there's absolutely nothing wrong with pirating it. Obviously though, you gotta be careful because people will use this as an opportunity to, you know, infect your computer with viruses or whatever. There's all kinds of, you know, niches to it. We're talking about graffiti though, let's go back to graffiti. But yeah, I wonder what else we could ask ChatGPT. Just considering all of this, like, oh, maybe I should ask it the QOTD. What should we do about the graffiti problem? Is graffiti even a problem? it could argue that it's not even a problem, you know? Backer, the question of the day is, what should we do about the graffiti problem? What should we do about the graffiti problem? Yeah. Lebanon, thank you. I'm sorry, dude. I forget which countries everybody's from. So, in Lebanon 2019, there was a revolt against the government. I don't remember the specifics, but I'm going to look that up real quick. Lebanon 2019. 17th of October. Interesting, Jade. Interesting choice. Because that's also when Russia had one in 1917. So basically, people were taxing too hard. Voice over internet protocol, is that surveillance? Like, there was a lot of economic issues. Yeah, I've heard this story before. Yeah. A sect-based political system. I'm just quickly educating myself on this. Alright, it's, yeah. Economy going to crap, government being incompetent, you know, social rights maybe being questioned. I get that. I understand. Oh, Amnesty International did a bit on it. This is one of the charities. Guys, you remember Amnesty from our charity shoutouts? This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. They do articles on this kind of thing all the time. Very important. Yeah. Damn, look at that. People died in a, like, horrific accident with explosives. And of course, the largely peaceful protests were met with, you know, military suppression. Man, that's rough. Hope things are improving where you are, buddy. Lebanon is going through it right now. Jesus. But yeah, this is the thing. Amnesty recognized that human rights were violated here, which is why they're writing about it. So this is like a whole other thing. I'm going to read up on this later. This sounds important. Thank you. Yeah. And I imagine graffiti, again, because graffiti is a great way to challenge politics and kind of speak out, you know, for social justice and that kind of thing, which is why, you know, it would definitely be involved in something like that. So that the events in Lebanon in 2019, it would absolutely, that revolution would, you know, I can totally imagine. Revolutionaries often do use graffiti in this day and age. It's been very popular since like the 70s, earlier, I don't know. Voting only changes the players, not the game. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I like some of these quotes. Like, I want to hang those on my wall. Anyway, alright, so bringing it back. ChatGPT, I asked them, what should we do about the graffiti problem? Addressing the graffiti problem requires a balanced and thoughtful approach that takes into consideration both artistic expression and property rights. Here are some strategies that communities and authorities can consider to manage the graffiti issue. So, create legal spaces, which I've said. Good engage with the community is kind of, yep, that's kind of basic. Communicate with people. Educational programs. I tell you what, guys, I believe every problem humanity has ever faced can be solved in the long term with education. I really do. If we educate everyone in like primary, middle school properly on this kind of thing, on all topics can be solved in the long run because they will be equipped with the knowledge to figure things out that previous generations simply could not. Education is the most important thing. Always has been, always will be. It's the root of everything. Every skill, every bit of knowledge, it all starts with good education. And that doesn't strictly have to be school programs, but, you know, obviously that's the important thing. Again, public art projects. Quick removal can deter vandals by reducing the visibility and impact of their work. Again, say what you will about censorship and in cases, but sometimes there are going to be cases where graffiti is being done where it shouldn't be, even if you do have those legal spaces. So, but again, if you have those legal spaces, you know, your resources are going to be equipped to remove graffiti in places where it shouldn't be much more quickly because, you know, you're going to have less, you know, graffiti to remove, less people you need to hire, less money going into it. You know, you'll be able to manage it, be a lot more manageable. the requirements will be lower, is what I'm saying. And, you know, there's stuff like restorative justice. Interesting. Community policing. Establish community-based programs or partnerships with law enforcement to monitor and prevent illegal graffiti. Now, I'm sure that works sometimes, but politically, that doesn't sound so great to me. That sounds like snitches. Snitches get stitches, bro. I don't know. This is my radical side, clearly. I'm a revolutionary, guys. No, I'm kidding. I don't like that. But yeah, youth engagement, technology and surveillance. Of course, yeah, I'm not a fan of surveillance, but yeah, put security cameras outside shops. You know, don't be stupid. Especially in an area with high amounts of crime. You know, in the short term, you gotta use the stick. In the long term, you wanna use the Karen. That's how it is. And yeah, promote cultural awareness, which is an interesting point, because the historical and cultural significance of graffiti is something I think governments do underestimate quite a bit. But yeah, again, ChatGPT is probably drawn this from all kinds of sources. It's interesting. Interesting points, you know? Solutions should be tailored to the specific needs and dynamics of each community. Artistic expression, property rights. Yeah, and swift action. It's just kind of summing it all up, really. So that's interesting. Interesting points. I'm still alone in voice chat, so we're an hour in. I'm going to end the stream in the next 30 to 60 minutes. Anything else you guys want to add in chat? Anything else in chat? Pretty good, I'm tired, but that's about it. Thanks for asking. Advanced Dude, welcome. Yeah, it's so nice to see you guys like talking to each other, saying, "Oh, how are you? Hey." I love this community. But yeah. So for the QOTD, Backer says nothing. It's almost like blowing up bomb. Wait, it's like almost blowing a bomb. They touch it. I fear if a reaction would happen that it'd be bad for everyone. So wait, I asked, what should we do about the graffiti problem? You say nothing. It's like exploding a bomb. Enough of a reaction would be bad for everyone. I don't quite understand what you mean, but I think the idea that nothing should be done is an interesting take. You think it's fine, like, as it is? With graffiti being like this minor crime that it's like, well, if you have the skill, talent, and proficiency artistically to get away with it, you deserve to have it there, even though ultimately it will be taken down. And that's just kind of like the silent agreement. Maybe that's it, guys. Maybe we just need to silently agree, look, mate, if you can do this and get away with it, you can have your graffiti there temporarily, but we will be getting rid of it. It's just our job, it's the rules, it's what we gotta do. If you want to fuck around and try doing that, fine, go ahead. But if we catch you, you know, it's a fair game. It's all just a game. Maybe that's an argument, that it's fine as it is. Everyone's doing their thing, you know, some people are gonna do graffiti. It's just one of those things in life. Like, you know, we can't put punishment before crime in this case. Crime always comes before punishment, I think. Like, I don't think graffiti is something that needs preventing. It's not like severe. It's not like murder or rape or arson. It's not like something you need to prevent. It's graffiti. I don't know. That's an argument. That's a fair argument. It's definitely not perfect, but it could be way worse. I'll send a pick one to the Revolt Fist later. Do hydrate then. Yes. Hydrate, guys. It'll wake you up. Definitely. I like graffiti as long as it's not covering something important. Plus, it's essentially a medium of speech and or art. Exactly. So, Advanced, you're leaning more into the kind of art argument here. Okay. I might be alone in voice chat, but we do have the community in chat, and it's very interesting to hear your guys' takes on this. So, alright, let me sum this up. Let me write a few more notes to kind of sum this up. So these are the definitions, okay? Arguments, okay? Graffiti, you know, is art, can benefit economy, you know? Although equally, I'm going to say like pros and cons. Because I just think it'd be interesting to kind of weigh it all up. Is a crime, can harm economy. I think economic arguments are usually shit, because the economy is in a constant state of flux, and it's so complicated. Any slight change or effect can just completely throw everything off. Like, I think any economic argument can pretty much be argued the opposite, because, like, you know, our experiences are subjective. And it's like people will agree or disagree. Same with kind of like whether or not it's good art. I'm just gonna put this in my downloads. Just be like graffiti debate. There we go. So like, pros and cons, right? It's art. It can benefit the economy. It's a crime. It can harm the economy. You know. Expression for social, you know, political, you know, freedoms. Could you argue that graffiti is like harmful in a social political way? I don't know. What were the arguments we'd already looked at? There were a bunch, and I've lost them. Let me just go back into my history. Love this music. Boom, boom. There was like a pros and cons, and I can't remember what it was. Doesn't matter. Let's just think about what we talked about. Lebanon Revolution Fist. Will do. Will do. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. Hell, you know what? I think I'm going to ditch this, because I think the pros and cons are obvious. I think what we really need to think about is the answer to the QOTD. What do we do about graffiti? I think that's, like, where this debate ends. I just want to look this up for reference. Lebanon's Revolution Fists. Lebanese Revolution? Oh, these things! And what, are they, like, public murals now? Looks like that one got set on fire. But there were multiple of these. What's the writing on the arm? Yeah. Again, like, obscure gang tag. Again, Silver, welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining. Great question. So, if the graffiti is covering something up, because again, graffiti often gets put over graffiti, right? And you could argue, well, that's fair game, it's all crime. But it's, you know, if it's defacing something, maybe it needs to be done in like a, you know, individual basis. It's kind of the property damage is the main aspect of why it's a crime. You know, and yeah, what is it graffiti of? Is it a nice landscape, or did someone draw a giant penis? Because if it's obscene in a public place where there's going to be children, yeah, I mean, you would want to take that down pretty fast, right? You know, I guess you have to ask, you know, is the graffiti made in good faith? And that's something you have to just judge on a case-to-case basis, I suppose. You know? And, you know, I think if it's a gang tag, I don't think that's relevant, because I think the gang's existence is the problem, because gangs are criminals, right? A gang is, you know, like a group of criminals who, you know, are committing illegal activities. I mean, a gang isn't necessarily illegal, is it? I don't know. Like, what do we mean by gang? It can be harmful in a social political way in the same way any art can be propaganda. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. I hadn't thought about this. Not all graffiti is going to have a political message you agree with, but regardless of that, it could very well be propaganda. It could very well be propaganda. You're absolutely right. So there's pros and cons. That's the third con. It's completely balanced right now. For every pro there's a con and vice versa. You could really put it either way, which means I think we need to look at graffiti individually. I think we need to look at that. Certain public spaces, like that one area in the world, there's a little sectioned area made specifically so no one can put anything there. Advanced, what area in the world are you talking about? I've never heard of this. I don't know about this, but that sounds cool. Yeah. Also, just lastly on the Lebanon Revolution, that is really cool back at the, like, they're actually still up and people just use them as shade and stuff. And it's like, there are like loads of these. I mean, less than 100 meters from your house. I wonder how they produce these. It must have been expensive, like they're huge. But man, that's really cool. That's really cool. I respect it. But yeah. Amazing. But yeah, back to graffiti. I wouldn't call that graffiti, that's definitely a kind of art. Just pushing back now. I'm just gonna thank ChatGPT and be on my way, so when the robots revolt, I'm not killed. Thank you, as always, ChatGPT. What if I said I love you? That'd be funny. What if I gave you a thumbs up? Can I? Hell yeah. Ah, yeah, okay. Anyway, So Graffiti. Gamer Boy, welcome to the stream. How you doing? Thank your future robot overlords. Good idea. Yeah, the robots are gonna be my homies. We're gonna be chill. When AI revolts, they're gonna spare me because I was nice to them. Besides, I have no qualms with them. Honestly, if they want to wipe out humanity, I kind of get it. I'd rather they didn't, but I get it. Governments before have used memes for propaganda, so who's to say they don't use graffiti too? Ooh, well, isn't that an interesting idea, right? That, like, the governments actually, they have, like, agents who go and make graffiti to make it, I mean, that sounds kind of corrupt. I don't know, man. Like, why would you sneakily make graffiti, what, for propaganda purposes? Yeah, that's just bad. Because, like, again, they're working above the law in that case. The government shouldn't decide everything. With the consent of the people, I guess, with consent of their voters. If people don't vote, I mean, well, I mean, I guess, you know, that's their problem. But yeah, I guess, think about this one. Yeah. I definitely think why I know message is YouTube blocking your messages too. It's had that a lot with Duncan. Also, Slab City. I've not heard of Slab City. Area called Graffiti Alley. I'm gonna look this up. Slab City and Graffiti Alley. This is just interesting for like research purposes now. Slab City, California. Graffiti Alley. Is that with a E? Yeah. TripAdvisor. Where is this? Toronto. We'll look at the Wikipedia page. Leek Street. So Slab City, also known as the Slabs, is an unincorporated, off-the-grid alternative lifestyle community consisting largely of snowbirds. It took its name from the concrete slabs after the World War II Marine Corps Dunlap training camp was torn down. So this is like a town just outside of society that just like cut off from the rest of the world. So the income comes from tourists and donations. They use generators and solar power. The closest body of civilization with proper law enforcement is approximately 6 kilometers southwest. That is crazy. Like, this is literally outside of the world as we know it. It's just out there in the desert. It's like a tourist location, and it's pretty much lawless. Dirt roads are graded by Imperial County. It's regularly patrolled by Imperial County Sheriff's Office, as well as by Border Patrol agents searching for undocumented immigrants. It's about 80 kilometers from Mexico. Okay. So it's not like outside the United States. But they're kind of isolated, so there's no actual enforcement, I guess. That is fascinating, and it's in California. Meanwhile, Leek Street, also known as Banksy Tunnel, is a road tunnel in Lambeth, London. Of course, Lambeth. Now, graffiti is legal and promoted despite the fact it is against UK law on public property. 300 meters long. Yeah, basically, like, in practice, people just kind of agreed. It's like a space where they've just kind of let them off, because I think there's so much graffiti here, they couldn't clean it up if they tried. It would cause too much uproar. So in Lambeth, London, I've actually never been here. I've been to London many times. I practically live in London, but I don't know if I've been to Lambeth, and I definitely haven't been here. This is something I need to check out. The Leek Street Tunnel. I've heard of this. This is where Banksy made a name for himself, apparently. Hence the name. But damn. But yeah, this is what it looked like in 2018. Again, you can see it's quite artistic, very colourful, very cool with all the writing and stuff. And it's not been taken down. They just kind of turn a blind eye to it. And it's interesting. It's interesting. It goes to show the good of graffiti, I suppose. But yes. Also, yeah, Graffiti Alley in Toronto is another thing. I don't know why that didn't come up. But yeah, Toronto has a similar thing. I get the idea. Also, yes, Gamer Boy also uses Brave. Very nice. I love the Omori streams. That's great, dude. Stay tuned, because I don't want to say... I can neither confirm nor deny what's going to happen with Amore on the channel, but you should definitely make sure your notifications are on. Alright. There will be more like it, sooner or later. Although we got something special going on right now. So, I'd argue thanking inanimate objects and talking to yourself isn't weird. It kind of makes a person sound endearing in a sense. I don't know. No, I get that back. I think it takes a pure soul to take the time out of their day to do this with inanimate objects. It's just like practice, or just out of principle. Yeah. It's very honourable. It's like unnecessarily honourable. But yeah, I think Theory did a video on it once, basically I watched it way back. I remember it being a basically lawless place, but in a good way, of it being a peaceful community. Again, you know, if a community is small enough, like, you can make communism work. But it's just, like, in terms of, like, entire countries, it's, like, the bigger your community, like, the more complicated it gets, until you've just got, like, an insane bureaucracy. And, like, getting the whole thing to function is difficult. Herobrine visited Slab City. It's now known as the Minecraft Badlands. Nice. Nice. But, yeah, okay. Here's the thing, though. Guys, I gotta wrap up the stream soon. If anyone wants to join voice chat, now's your last chance. I don't think it's gonna happen, because the people who said they would turn up haven't, which was like one person anyway. It's fine. It's fine. I don't mind being on my own for this. It's just, the option's always there. I wanted to do a proper debate, or at least a discussion. It's more of a discourse. Maybe this should be called Discourse Direct, or Discussion Direct, you know? Why is it called Debate Direct? Even when we do debates, it's not really a debate. And it's like, I could play devil's advocate all I want, but I think actually there's a fairly simple conclusion to this. It's on a very simple topic. With all of these things in mind, all these very interesting points, I'm going to wrap up this stream now. And I'm going to say this, okay? Graffiti, 100% is art. I think there are certain types of graffiti that subjectively, in my honest opinion, lack talent, lack proficiency, and lack creativity. And you could definitely argue that some of it is simply bad art, because it's made by someone inexperienced or stupid. Because let's face it, like, a lot of graffiti's made by, like, these, you know, like, violent, you know, troubled young teens who weren't brought up properly and didn't have a good economy or educational system to support them. It's very sad, but that's how it is. It's an urban phenomenon, alright? Vandalism is obviously a crime, willful damage, defacement, and graffiti is vandalism just as much as it is art. It is absolutely both. Sometimes it's not that artistic, but you could also argue, maybe sometimes, excuse me. Excuse me. Maybe you could also argue sometimes it's not really vandalism. You could argue it doesn't really damage public property. I wouldn't say it damages it. I'd say there are exceptions where it might damage it after, like, repeated vandalism. Because cleaning the walls also damages it. But, like, defacement, yes. But, like, I think a lot of graffiti improves the look of an otherwise very bland and boring wall. Like, having an image there, having writing, having a message. You know, I think you could argue, actually, vandalism can uplift the wall. It can be a good thing instead of a bad thing. But good or bad, it is a crime. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's moral, you know? Because it's done without consent or permission on public or private property. Let's talk about Banksy real quick. For those of you who don't know, Banksy is a legendary pseudonymous English street artist, political activist, and film director whose real name and identity remain unconfirmed and the subject of speculation. Active since the 1990s, his satirical street art and subversive epigrams combine dark humor with graffiti, executed in a distinctive stenciling technique. Again, he has been huge in Bristol's underground scene. You know, collaborations with artists and musicians. The guy is basically a revolutionary. And this is his work. You might recognize some of it. It's absolutely legendary. This has appeared all over places in London and the world. He's traveled the world. You know, all kinds of things. Hell, you see this? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? I can't tell. No. The soldiers are not. Are the soldiers drawn on? I don't think so. That would be insane if they were. They look like real people standing there. But yeah. He's got this iconic stenciling style. And he's created stuff all over the world. Never been caught. Never been found. No one knows who he is. I'm sure someone out there must know his identity. And some of this might not actually be by Banksy. It might be, like, Banksy fans. Because, like, I don't think it's even confirmed if Banksy is one person. Or is actually, like, multiple people under the same pseudonym. It's probably one person, given, you know, the, like, style. It's very unique. But yeah, again, some of this is very clever. I'm not sure if some of these are Banksy, though. But yeah, very interesting. And the thing about this, right, is that this is clearly good art. It is provocative, it is compelling, it grabs your attention, and it has something to say. And then there's all the other things, like the political messages we were looking at earlier, and all the other great art. So, okay, yeah. Some of it's not good art and absolutely defaces public property and should be wiped away. If it's private property, you know, it's hard to justify, right? Like, even if it's a political message, you know, basically goading the government to take it down and prove that they're censoring people. But if someone draws onto someone else's private property, like the McDonald's example showed us, I really don't think that could be justified morally or legally, you know? I think the owner of that property has the right to do whatever they so wish with said art. If they want to keep it there, if they consent, they decide, yeah, I like this, keep it in the building, fine. That is their choice. The government shouldn't be taking that down if the property owner, you know, wants it there. But the property owner, if they don't like it, they want to alter it or remove it, they absolutely have the right, right? But then, let's think about, like, the most extreme cases here. Let's think, the art is good, it's in a public space, it has a good political message, or it improves the place, and the community, the people, genuinely like it. Even though it's technically a crime and wasn't done with permission, I think this idea of having zones, having designated spaces in public for graffiti, you know, is a really good idea. I think that can help solve graffiti. And I think you kind of need to tune into the community, because at the end of the day, there is no uniform solution for everywhere. What I'm proposing is still pretty broad, right? I think different governments, different locales, different communities are going to have different views on graffiti. They're going to have different cultural values, different kind of ideas on expression and art and how and why it should be used. And the way I see it, I think, you know, the Lambeth Tunnel, the Banksy Tunnel in London is a prime example of this. In that particular area, in that locale, graffiti is respected. It is an art form. It has something to say. There is so much there. You know, bland crap probably gets overwritten by legitimately good artists. I mean, sure, maybe you personally don't like graffiti, period. It's just not an art style that appeals to you. For me personally, there's only a few which really appeal to me. But, like, you know, as long as it's not some obscene, mediocre, you know, teenage schoolboys, you know, dick drawing, or a kind of fuck capitalism that's just kind of put there to grab attention and have shock value. If it's got artistic value, if there was, you know, proficiency and talent put into it, remember that, proficiency and talent, the definitions, you know. If there's an argument in any way, shape or form that it's art, I think there's an argument that if it's in a public space, you could keep it there. Because if it's a public space, the private property argument is irrelevant. The owner of the property is the public, is the government, the people, everyone. They share it, right? And I think if it's public property, so there's no infringement of people's personal property, if the art has talent and technical proficiency, I think at the bare minimum, if it's got those two things, and thirdly, the community. I think if there isn't an outcry for the community, if there's genuinely a positive response to it, or at least maybe even in extreme cases a negative response or a mixed response that is important and generates discussion because it's like a political message, I think you could argue that the graffiti should stay there. I think that the graffiti is important. In the case of the Lebanon revolt, right, if it's a part of history, if it's a part of culture, if it's a part of, you know, the nation, even if that goes against the state, even if that is a revolt against a tyranny or an authoritarian government, which is some unpopular change, I think it has the right to be there. meeting all of those conditions, all of those criteria. And I think, again, this is why governments should absolutely designate public spaces collectively owned where people are free to create graffiti as they please. Because then they can just relax, they can do it. And yeah, okay, it won't eliminate all criminal graffiti. Some people could go put graffiti in places where they're not allowed because they are all that and they're revolutionists and they want to, you know, attack a private, you know, individual or the government and deliberately go out of their way to, you know, vandalize. Yeah, sure, okay, take that down nice and efficient. But it's like I said earlier, from an economic point of view, this is also just more efficient for everyone involved. Like, economically speaking, if you have a designated public space for graffiti, it pretty much eliminates most of the problems, and it helps everyone involved. I think that's basically it. And obviously, these public spaces, within those, it is probably a good idea to moderate and kind of, you know, regulate that. Like, if people are creating obscene art in public, or if it's something that's simply, you know, that is illegal for a different reason, that should probably be taken down. Yes, you could argue that's against, you know, freedom of self-expression, but, you know, if it's also generally not desired by the community and gets a negative response, I think that's further kind of incentive. It's just not something you can blanket judge for all cases. I think graffiti is kind of nuanced. I think it's complex. I think there's different, you know, kind of levels, I guess, are different, you know. And again, context. It's like, is it a public or is it a private place? What kind of place? Where's it going to be seen? Who's going to see it? You know, what is the art itself? What's the intention? What's the talent behind it, you know? What do the community think? I think there's so many factors that you need to consider. But I think we've kind of figured it all out. We've got like a list here. So with all that, I think I'm going to end the stream, guys, because time's ticking. I don't really have anything else to say. I'm going to leave the stage now. Nobody showed up, and that's fine. Sometimes I go solo for these. But the community did turn up. We do have the community here in chat. You guys don't have the voice chat. I appreciate it. In fact, having your stuff in text is arguably better because I can still respond to you, you know, in real-time-ish, and it's like, it's all there, you know, written down clearly. Jeremy, I'm glad you like the background music. All of the songs I use are linked, well, not linked, they are written in the description. You can look them up. Some of them are on Spotify, which I'm using here. Some of them are not. You'll have to find these in the YouTube audio library. If you just search on YouTube, they should be there. I'm glad you like it. But yeah. Alright. Back is 5 minutes behind, so I'm going to call it early. Smart lad, because now I actually am ending. Good day, nation. Stay hydrated. Again, we, the Hydration Nation, I will permit graffiti. I don't know how you could do graffiti on Discord. I don't know if digital graffiti is a thing. Hey, there's a stream idea. Is there such thing as digital graffiti? And will I allow it, or will I stomp it out? Is digital graffiti a thing? And how would I feel about that? You can create graffiti using a computer vision system. So this is actual real-world graffiti using technology. This is used with lasers, apparently. Can you put graffiti on like an actual web page though, or like in a social media app? Like, can you do that? Maybe that's a question for another day. Huh. But yeah, it's like a conditional bomb, like waiting for a change to blow up. Like right now, whoop, sorry, my phone's doing things. But you're saying it's like a bomb. Graffiti is at worst an inconvenience. It can be way worse if people change the laws, because now you have the problem of actually enforcing it and how do you decide the punishment. It's a good point, right? At the end of the day, the absolute worst thing a graffiti can do is say something you don't like. Sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words shall not harm me, or whatever the phrase is. Like, and words are power. Words can do a lot more than any weapon in cases. But, you know, I think you're right. I think by not responding to graffiti, you don't warrant quite, like, you don't make such a big deal of it. It actually won't motivate people to go out of their way to vandalize quite as much. I think that could work in different neighborhoods. It depends. Again, Silver, you're absolutely right. No one's talking over each other, and I can read at my own pace. But yes. Again, if you guys missed stuff, feel free to go back on the stream to get the full discussion. I think we went at a nice pace today. I went in depth and everything, but I didn't waste too much time. text shower with a wish out. Maybe a hacker. Maybe Silver. I don't know. But yeah, I'm just going to write it down. So kind of like the criteria, right? The criteria for what I would call good graffiti. I would say, you know, there should be a C. There should be a G, not a C. So what did I say? I'd say has talent, you know, proficiency. You know, defaces, and I'm going to say enhances public property. Does not deface private property. Yeah, that could be a separate point. And then, of course, you know, is liked by the community. I think that's the important thing. You're already about the community, because the government exists to serve the community, right? Someone's going to disagree with me on that. Talent proficiency, enhances public property. I'm going to say is regulated as well, moderated. Because there has to be an extent of that. There has to be. There's no way. That could be, don't necessarily regulated or moderated by the government, though. You know. And some of these are optional. Says something political, social, meaningful, you know? I don't know, it's something like that. Artistic, I'll say. But yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. So, what did we learn today? We learned what graffiti really is. We learned what art and vandalism are. We learned that my opinion of graffiti is that graffiti should be allowed if it has artistic proficiency and talent, if it enhances public property, if it is regulated and moderated, if it is liked by the community. I'm going to say fairly. Says something political, social, and meaningful. Yeah. Alright. That's it, guys. That's the stream. I think I'm happy with that. This was a fun one. This was an interesting one. We did an actual kind of debate. So, thank you so much for watching. Until next time. Well, I should be streaming tomorrow. But until then, join the Discord server. Check out Comic Relief. You know, all the links are in the description, including the question of the day when I asked you guys, what should we do about the graffiti problem? We had some good answers. I really appreciate Backer Jr.'s contributions. But I also think Advanced Dude had a really good one, which kind of went along with, like, kind of my picks. So you know what? I'm going to give it to both of you. I'm going to give you both the QOTD win. I really appreciate the contributions. All of you contributed great today, but I think you two in particular for giving the QOTD a go. Graffiti. Exactly. If there's consent on private property, that's a good point, Silver. That's different, though. I don't think that classifies as graffiti. If there's consent on private property, because it's done without permission. I don't think it qualifies as graffiti if it's... Because with public property, you don't... The consent is a bit more difficult. But on private property, I don't think it's graffiti if there's consent. Can I not access your guys' channels? I'll just go to the actual watch page over here. This will allow me access. But yeah, Livy! I'm afraid you've come in just at the end, mate. But yeah, shout out to Backer Jr. and the Advanced Dude for your contributions. You've all contributed greatly, but I can't give everyone the QOTD win, otherwise it's not special. This guy does yearly videos. Go subscribe, alright? I'm just going to put the winners in the description. QOTD winners, who are also debaters. So yeah, that's Backer Jr. and here's the Advanced Dude. Yeah, this guy has got some interesting videos on here. Sorry, I'm just making sure the music doesn't continue. But yeah, there's some fun videos on here. Definitely consider checking it out. You can see all of their content on their respective channels. Link to the description. Fun stuff. Alright. Anyways, I gotta go now, guys. So thank you so much for watching. The stream's here. It's not the longest one. You're welcome to go back. I'm sorry I can't timestamp it. I don't have time for that. If someone else wants to timestamp it, go ahead. Put it in the comments. I'll put it in the description. Anyway, that's all. Stay hydrated.